So I'm going to be showcasing the top 3 best units from the update. So, to the team, we got Luffy, Zoro, Kratos, Ursa for the buff, Scale King for the buff, and an army for the money. These are the memorias I'm using, and these are the buffs I'm going to be using. So, let's get into Sandbox and see how good these units actually are. Before I continue on with the video, make sure to like and subscribe and to join my Discord down in the description, because I'm hosting free giveaways, and when we reach 200 members, I will be giving away the Godly Ascension bundle free worth 10,000 Robux. Join the Discord so you don't miss out. Okay, let's set the money to max. Place down Luffy first and max him out. But let's see how much he does on placement. He does 355k on placement. It's pretty good. And then per upgrade he gains quite a big amount, especially once you're at the middle. And then fully maxed out, he does 4.5 million. Let's spawn a boss and see how much the APS he's actually doing. Speed multiplier 0. Custom spawn. Let's put it there. So his estimated DPS is around 1.7 mil. So that's pretty good. Let's take a look at the passives. Oh, it's actually going to like 3 million sometimes. That's really good. So, attacks inflict repulse. Buff this unit's damage and damage of pirate allies in range by 50%. So, Luffy actually buffs units like Zoro, Kaido, and all the pirate units basically. When an enemy in range is repulsed, inflict wanted. Wanted grants 40% more yen and causes enemies to take 40% more damage. So, it's basically a wounded, but then 40% for pirate units. So Luffy and Zoro actually work really well together. And you get 40% more yen. So that is really good as well. When this unit attacks an enemy with a damage amplifying debuff other than wanted, remove that debuff and apply wanted instead. Automatically apply wanted to boss enemies. So there's pretty much no point in bringing wounded or any other status debuff. Enemy debuff. Attack, then the next passive, attack warp reality around the attacker's position, dealing 50% damage to enemies hit. So basically where the attack lands, Luffy does 50% more damage. Each attack on the same enemy buffs crit rate by 5%. Attacking a new enemy resets this buff. Critical hit applies nullified. So you get nullified from it, which is pretty good. And if you were to be hitting the same boss over and over and over again, essentially you're going to get to the point where you're always critting. So it's really good. Do 5% more damage per status debuff or lockout on the enemy. All allied attacks inflict repulse when a repulsed enemy passes on an enemy that is not already repulsed. So if that is really good. So basically if the first walking enemy is repulsed, gets repulsed back. And if there's any enemy there that is not repulsed and the initial one goes through them, he makes those repulse as well. So it could like be a whole chain reaction of just repulsing back, which is pretty crazy. Then the last passive, immune to status effects instead of debuffs. While Sun God transformation is active, buff own damage by 50% per ability on cooldown. While transformed, buff damage by 1% up to 100. So if you go into his own form where you like become him and you do that for 100 seconds, you get 100% damage buff. So if you fully max out his potential damage by pretty much everything, especially the potential on the boss, it's actually really crazy. So then when it's deactivated, retain this buff for 2 minutes. Give all allies joy. Allies with joy inflict random self debuff. And slow for 30%. So Luffy is crazy. Luffy also has a nuke that does 300% damage to all allies. And a nuke that does 800 damage to that enemy with the highest HP. So it's really good for a boss. And you can always transform him back into his old version. Cog 4. So then we still have his Memoria. When attacking an enemy on repulse lockout, do 35% more damage. After this unit Uses meter, gain 30% damage faster for 20 seconds. Non-enhanced skills generate 10% meter per use. When attacking in range, leaves repulse, lockout, inflicts repulse on the enemy. So Luffy's just constantly repulsing and gaining money and buffing pirates. It's essentially a really good unit. Then we have Zoro on placement. He's not doing that much, but he's really cheap to max out. 48k, just nothing. It is actually crazy. But then his passives, when attacking a burning enemy, inflict wanted, gain 50 yen for each takedown on a wanted enemy, triples rewards from boss bounty missions, and double rift shards gained from rifts. So it's really good for any raids or bounties you're going to be doing. It triples the rewards. And it's going to be really nice for rifts, especially when there's like a future unit on a new rift. You're going to be able to get the Vow Stone really fast and clear the shop as well. And the 50 yen, which is going to be pretty good. Because it looks like if you run a full wanted team, you maybe don't even have to bring a farm. Then the second passive, Hunter of Pirates. Attacks inflict bleed for 50% of this unit's damage over 10 seconds and burn for 20% of this unit's damage over 10 seconds. Deal 50% more damage to wanted enemies. When an enemy in range is healed, deal 100% of this unit's damage to that enemy and inflict rupture. So that is crazy. You don't even need to bring any rupture units because he just does it. I feel like the pirate team just has it on. Synergizes each other so well. So then the third passive, when attacking an enemy with burn applied by this unit, apply an additional burn stack for each burn stack on the enemy up to 4. So he can have 4 burn stacks of 20% of this unit's damage. That's basically what it says. When attacking the same enemy, buff damage by 0.5% per burn stack. This buff resets when attacking a new enemy. So the burn stack, if you're hitting the same enemy constantly, can go up crazy. So these guys are really boss killers. If you're gonna like do something that requires to kill a boss, bringing a pirate team, it's actually gonna be really useful. Then his Memoria, deal 50% more damage inside rifts. He was already really good for rifts, but this makes it even better. The second one, deal 30% more damage to enemies inflicted with rupture. So he just keeps on buffing himself. All these pirate units keep buffing themselves. Then the third passive, the King of Hell. When attacking an enemy with burn applied by this unit, apply an additional burn stock for each burn stack on that enemy up to 4. Oh, that's his passive. Already had that. My bad. For every 1% damage buff in this unit, buff crit chance by 0.25. So it's basically stacking and stacking and stacking if you're hitting up pretty much a boss. Then let's see how much damage he's actually doing on Vegeta. Oh, he is basically instantly dying. Vegeta. Luffy is doing 2 mil. Zoro is just climbing up. He's already doing 600k. So that's pretty good. He's going up. He's getting the stacks. Up to 800 buff. So he gets 100% rage. And that will basically turn into 100% damage. And then once it max, it will go into 200% damage. And his SPA will be buffed for 20%. So that's actually pretty good. Then when this unit follows up, inflict burn for 50% of this unit's damage over 8 seconds. If the enemy is already burning, inflict chaos for 50% of this unit's damage over 8 seconds. Instead, chaos stacks buff chaos DOT damage by 3% per stack up to 30 stack. So it's basically just like Zoro and Luffy. He has insane stacking, and if he's just gonna consistently hit a boss, his damage is gonna go up like crazy. Especially if you look at this passive, immunity buffs. When an enemy dies, absorb that enemy's essence. The essence you can use to get his damage off. If you kill enemies, you're gonna be able to get essence and boost up his damage and range. So let's spawn in a few Vegetas and get some essence in. So by doing that, he's gotten around 300 essence, which should be able to get him around a 30% buff already. So that's pretty good. So then his other part of the passive is his follow-ups. After attack 2, follow up with attack 1. After attack 4, follow up attack 3, 5, 4. And follow-ups deal 50% damage. So he's just doing an insane amount of damage. If you max him out, you'll also be able to see that he has a really high SPA. That will go down with the amount of enemies in his range. He's going to be able to build off the rage. But his range is also really big, and he's a full AoE unit. So I think he's really good to have. Then also he has a quick time event, which is basically a nuke that can trigger multiple times. I'm just gonna read the passive. Target the enemy with the highest HP in range. Triggers a cutscene. Every correct QTE hit does 300% damage. If QTE is failed, active ends. So once I'm gonna click on it, we're gonna go into a cutscene, and you're gonna have to click your basically time clicks in order to do 300% damage multiple times. So there's no enemy in range, so it's not gonna work. Just gonna spawn it and then go in, and you're gonna go into the cutscene. It looks really cool. Then you press and I misclicked. But basically, you can hear the sound continue. You're gonna get multiple chances to get his nuke to do multiple times of damage. And it can result up in a lot of extra DPS. We got some more essence from the extra bosses I spawned, and we're up to 50 now. So I'm gonna spawn a boss. Wait, before that, his Memoria, his first one, buff damage by half of the current meter value as a percentage. So when he is 100% rage, it's another 50% buff. So towards the end of all these buffs, you can get like 400% buff, and then depending on how far you got that, even more. And the number is just gonna scale so high that the number is gonna get extremely big, which increases the DPS by a ton. And especially with these follow-ups and burn, he's really good. The nuke with multiple triggers also gonna be insane damage. So his second passive on the Memoria, whenever this unit applies chaos, inflict burn for 20% of this unit's damage. So if you get to the point where you have multiple hits on an enemy, you're gonna have 70% burn, and it's going to stack up to 30. So he can be a real boss slayer. Just gonna spawn one boss and see how they're going to handle it. I'm gonna spawn one Vegeta, set a custom spawn, and spawn it right there. And we're gonna see how much damage these three can get together combined. You can already see that the rage is building up quite fast on Kratos. It's almost at 100% already, and he's doing 1.3, 1.56. It's just going up. Around 1.3 million DPS. And Zoro's also building up with his passives, doing around 1.3. And then Luffy's already doing 2.5, which is quite crazy. And also, if you were to go into his form as your actual avatar, being Luffy, and you do that for 100 seconds, you're gonna have a 100% buffer 2 minutes. So he could be doing, look, he's doing around 3 million sometimes. He could be doing 6 million. Zoro's doing 1.7, which is also pretty good for a unit that is this cheap. And Kratos is already doing 3 million just because the stacks are just building up, and building up. And that is with only 50% damage on this stat. I think in a something like Raid or Rifts, you can get a lot more essence. You could possibly go up to 100 plus. So that would be 50% more on top of this. You could be essentially doing probably up to 6 million DPS. So I think he's three are definitely the three best new meta units. Maybe Kaido as well, but these are definitely the top three for all the modes in game. We have Zoro for rifts, bounties, raids. Luffy for just really good damage. You could do world lines, infinite, pretty much everything. And then Kratos is also going to be probably a good one for tournament, since his full AoE is probably going to be able to crowd control and kill boss really well. So that's really nice to have in one unit, especially because his nukes. So yeah, these units are insane. I really recommend you guys to get them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I forgot to showcase the buff with Scout King and Urza. So I'm gonna place a Vegeta so Urza can get up to his 100% meter. And play the Scout King song real quick. Alright, Urza is almost there. Vanguard. So with the Scout King and Urza, Luffy's around doing 4 million plus. Zoro's doing 2 mil plus. Kratos is still building up, but I feel like he's going to be around plus 3 mil. Just look at the boss getting shredded. 2.7 mil, 3 million plus on Zoro. 4 million plus on Luffy. And about almost 3 million plus on Kratos. So, yeah, that just showcases how good these units actually are.